Hi, and welcome to the show, the Student Film Show. I'm your host, Nat Mondragon, and in this segment, we will be talking about um, John Beth Solomon's thesis film, What It Takes, and we're going to be joined by the director and writer of the film, which is John. And he's going to be talking about his film and the stages that he went through in post-production and pre-production, production, and post-production. So without further ado, let's welcome John.
Hello, hey
Hi,
Natmar, how
John.
you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. It's cool to be here today.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have you here. So you directed and wrote What It Takes as your thesis film. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I had the privilege of looking like at the rough cut of the film and reading the script, and I gotta say it's a really nice story. I really
Thank
like the message behind it. But to our audience who hasn't had the privilege of seeing the film, can you talk more about the film? Like what it is about, the theme behind it.
you. Sure, yeah. The film is called What It Takes, and it essentially follows the story of a woman named Natalie Espinoza. She's a single mother struggling to make ends meet. Her son, Jake, becomes very sick and needs treatment, and essentially um, she needs to find a way to pay for it. Everyone's dealt with debt. Everyone's dealt with, the fear of not being able to pay certain bills. And this is what I wanted to hone in on, this feeling of, fear and uncertainty. And that's her struggle. But what ends up happening is through a connection of her dad and her brothers who were actually drug runners and in the drug game in Southern California, LA, finds her and finds out about her financial struggles and asks her if she wants to do exactly what her dad did. As she used to do that, she used to go on, trips with her dad across country to basically deliver the drugs. And so essentially, finds a way, an illegal way, but a way to make ends meet. And I really wanted to tackle the concept and the age old question: what would you do for the people you love? Like how far would you? Though it's that old question. Would you steal a piece of bread for your family to feed your family? Same thing. What would you do for? How far would you go to save the people you love? And so yeah, and that question's always fascinated me, just that philosophical and moral debate. And I really just wanted to hone in and just dive in and with this character Natalie, just try and almost find an answer, almost find a definitive answer. So I can't hear you. Sorry.
That's a very interesting, theme that you try to touch upon. So I'm just curious, what made you want to write this idea? Like, how did you come up? What were your influences for this script?
I am funny enough. I'm watching Breaking Bad right now for like my seventh or eighth rewatch, and that was my main inspiration. Those who don't know Breaking Bad, which I'd be surprised, it's about Walter White. He has lung cancer and wants to leave money behind for his family, so he turns to dealing to cooking meth, which he's a chemist, so he's a genius at just basic chemistry. So it just I love that show, and it just really inspired me um, to create this character and show someone basically fall from grace. Watching Walt's character, this innocent, frail teacher who you think would never even swat a fly. Here he is cooking meth and creating basically a meth empire. But at the end of the day, he does it for his family. He does it to save his family, save himself. Not save himself. He did it, but yeah, to save it to provide for his family because they had been through financial struggle for a long time. And so, if I really had to hone in on one was inspiration, it'd be Breaking Bad easily.
Okay, and I do see that in, like you said, like California, LA, for your script. I do see that the characters are mainly people of color. Could you explain a little more about your decision making on making your characters people of color, Hispanic people?
Well, Hollywood is just the what Hollywood's going through right now is just a culturally a good thing where there's more representation coming along for you know everybody, and I think that's really important. And it's always been a philosophy and a life goal, even when I was younger, just to make sure that there is any sort of representation for anybody. Um, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I just believe in inclusivity and overall representation for everybody. And so yeah.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear. That is a topic that is very like touchy upon in Hollywood with not having enough representation for people of color. I'm very glad that you chose your script to represent people in that community. So let's talk about again the story of the script. How long did it take for you to write that script?
That's a good question. I came up with the idea. When was it? Almost think about a year and a half ago. And you know that you're a screenwriter yourself. You know the process. You go through many drafts. The first draft was just vastly different. Not even yeah, as in a lot of cases it is. It just wasn't the same story. It wasn't the same concepts. Wasn't the same anything. I'd say about a solid like half a year before I really was. I know it's a short, so some people might think that's a really long time, but I just wanted to make sure I got it right. I just wanted to um, dialogue's huge for me. So I would get a lot of people's. I would show it to a lot of people and say, "Do you feel like this is what two people would say?" And I like to think I'm good with feedback. So if someone says no, this is bad, then I fix it. So yeah, just a solid 6, maybe a little less months is what it took me to finally get to the script that I was ready to lock.
That seems like a long time, but not it's, you don't need. You can have as much time as you want with having the right script and writing it the way that you want. So, so in those 6 months, how would you say the story changed in your script from your first draft to the final draft that you shot?
The simplest answer, there was like an entire scene with a cop chasing her almost like a cop chasing scene, which was a little crazy looking back on it. Um, I'd say there was just a lot more moving parts, a lot more locations. But over time, polishing the script, I just realized that a lot more could be done with a lot less, if that makes sense. So, for instance, like I can't even think of the number to be honest. I just had so many locations, so many different places that I wanted to shoot, and So, yeah, like I said, it just kinda came down to cutting out the unnecessary, cutting out scenes that just really didn't, and even in, everybody knows what it's like. Even in the editing room, you're cutting out scenes that just don't feel necessary. So, it's almost like you're constantly editing the script almost, which is, that's why I always like screenwriting and the combination of screenwriting and directing, because you really never stop editing the script in theory. Um, but, so yeah. There was just a lot that I cut out. I think it was my original cut was 10 pages, or my original, like, the very, very first draft was 20, what did I say, 10? I'm at 20 pages, and then we cut it down to 15, I think. So,
Wow, that's a very long time. So how long is your story right now? How long is the film? Like the final? I'm assuming you are in like the locked picture of the film. How long is that?
total runtime, I think I gotta look again. Um, 12 minutes, 40 seconds, something like that. I originally was 16, so, maybe not 16, more like 15. So we cut a good amount out.
Okay, well, we're gonna go to a commercial break before we continue this interview. So hang on tight, and we will be back in just a moment.
Oh, you look good.
Thank
You
you.
look good.
Hey! Hey! See the guy taking my little girl out, huh?
Yep.
Huh. You know, why don't you go ahead and take my new car?
Thanks, Pops.
Go ahead, baby.
Watch this. Favorite spot? Favorite girl?
You left me with the wrong daddy!
I'm taking you home.
Why?
Car Finder on the Hyundai Genesis.
Back so soon?
Here you go, sir.
Because a dad's got to do what a dad's got to do.
Honey, what'd you guys do tonight?
All right, and we are back to the Student Films Talk Show. So to continue this interview, so John, you shot in January, correct?
Wow, yeah, I did. It just seems so long ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was January.
Yeah, and we were still in the middle of pandemic, and we're still are in the
That's right.
pandemic, but we are finishing up. So I wanted to talk more about how was it shooting in a pandemic? I have some pictures of behind the scenes and with your team, and the crew seemed very, very small. It doesn't seem like a full-on big production that you would expect for a thesis film. So could you explain more, like how was it with shooting in the middle of a pandemic? Because I do know that CCH had a lot of protocols regarding that. So could you please explain and talk a little bit more about your experience with shooting during COVID?
It's definitely an interesting one. Definitely a unique experience, to say the least. So, I think on paper, I don't remember the rules exactly. It's been 6, 7 months now. Um, but on paper, I think we weren't really allowed to have more than 15 in total on set. But since we're off school property, again, I can't. I'm sure a lot of you know the protocols, but I completely forgot. And we had, of course, we had the option to have more people on crew. We had the option to, as long as we're being safe. But I didn't want to take any risks. So I think we maxed out on the busiest day at 15 people, including actors. So I just we got a lot done, and we had a small crew. We never went overtime. We finished on time, which was amazing. And the crew that we had was so talented and so efficient that honestly they made up for having a bigger crew. That was the good thing, is we just had good people who just worked their butts off, and really it was a crew of like what, without taking away me and the cast, probably like 8. 9 maybe, and they did the work of like 30 people. So I'm very grateful for that. They really did an outstanding job. And on set, you were the AD, so you remember, but we had a lot of protocols to follow. You took the temperatures every day. You did all the record keeping. We were smart. We had sanitizer. We had like a whole COVID setup, making sure everybody was clean and safe. So yeah, it was interesting and a little constricting, but we still got everything done, and that's really what's important, and we did it safely. So
Yeah, that was very surprising. It's not letting me mute. Can you hear me?
yeah, I could hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it was it was very surprising that, with 8 people we got everything done on time. Yeah, I remember running around the set having to take everyone's temperatures, and people like they were anxious to leave, but they were just waiting to take the temperatures, write everything down. And yeah, I'm
Mm,
very surprised, and we finished on time, right? Like on schedule, even a little bit ahead of schedule too, which
yeah.
was very surprising with an 8-person crew.
Well,
Yeah,
great AD.
thank you. Uh, so Uh, so what were some of the challenges that you personally or you and your team faced, not just in the production, but in the pre-production of it all? How like what were some of the challenges or obstacles that you faced while planning this film?
Biggest one is and it was bad, or not bad, it was just what's the right word? I guess constricting. We were slated to shoot, when was, I can't even remember. November. It was the week after Thanksgiving, I believe, originally. And I had certain family issues come up that required me to return back to Chicago pretty immediately. Um, so that we were forced to push the shoot by, what was it, 4 months? No, not 4 months, like 2 months. And that was the biggest one. That was the biggest concern. That was the biggest setback we had. But again, we had such a talented team that it didn't. The setback didn't even matter. I was in communication with great hosts for locations that they were so understanding, and they let us move the dates. They even gave us great deals. Still, that are like they basically, what do you call it? Honored previous agreements, even with the the date changes. And then of course dealing with Film LA and insurance, having to get all that changed. But really, me and my team, we did it in a timely fashion, got everything done, and honestly, other than that, we didn't really face many issues. It all went really, really smoothly in the end, which I'm very grateful for, because I know that's not often how it happens, and I've been on many chaotic sets of my own as well. I could easily say, even with COVID and all the setbacks, this is one of the smoothest sets that I've had personally. So I'm grateful for that.
Glad to hear everything went well. So with the whole pre-production, post-production, and post-production, so if you had an opportunity to redo something in this production with your film and just the planning around it, what would you do differently in the future?
That's a great question. And that's always the hardest one, right? You're trying to be retrospective and realize your past mistakes. I don't know that we were so safe, and I was worried about safety that I guess I would have maybe increased the crew by a couple of numbers. Um, Even though we were safe, it's because we were safe. But previously, I was just worried. I just wanted everybody to not feel constrict, or like, with a bunch of people on set, feel worried. So maybe add a couple people, and honestly, it's um I was very happy with my actors, but I do wish that I spent a little more time and a little more care with casting. That's not to say anything against my actors. I enjoyed working with all of them, and but casting is such an important step that you cannot you can't push it off. You can't just, excuse my language, half-ass it. You really got to give it your all and really give the proper attention, especially at our level, you know, student filmmakers. It's not like we have casting directors. It's not like we have people do this for us. It's up to us. We got to take care of it. So really, I just wish I spent more time on casting.
So with this film in the production process, what was your favorite thing about it? What was the fun memory that you have and that you will have with you forever as you remember shooting your thesis?
Leaving on the last day. I'm kidding. You got a lot of good questions. Make me think. Stump me a little bit. You know, the first day we shot in this I don't really want to call it a desert, but it was like a desert area. It was more mountainous. And it was just beautiful to shoot there. The shots we got were phenomenal, and the entire time we were up on this clearing, this overlook. So it's like the entire day you were just looking out into this just mountains and nature. But we were just it's always kind of, as much as I love LA, it's nice to get out of the city, nice to get out of the you know, cars and everything everywhere. It was just very peaceful and serene, and was a great environment to shoot. I had a lot of fun that day. Even though the temperature dropped a bit and it was a little chilly, it was still fun. Still a good. That was a good day.
Yeah, I remember it almost started raining, like at the very end of the day.
Yeah. And when I say chilly, chilly for everybody else, not for me.
Right, Mr. Chicago.
Yeah, that's right.
So, this film, I know you just graduated, but what stage are you in the film? Like, are you in the post-production? Is it almost done?
Yeah, you like putting me on the spot. It's post production. We're definitely obviously in post production. There's still quite a bit to get done. My editor is graduating in June, so he's very busy and preoccupied with his own stuff. Kind of still waiting for we in post production we encountered quite a bit of setbacks that have kind of just halted the final product, but definitely by the end of summer I'm gonna get in contact. Also, it's not the best situation being 2,000 miles away from your editor and everybody, so everything has to be done virtually. But yeah.
Right. So when everything is said and done, what do you think you're going to be doing with the film? Like, what are your plans for this film?
Definitely festivals. You know, that's always the goal. Get it out there. Get it heard. Get it seen. Get connections.
Right. Okay, so since you just finished school, you did your thesis. I know some of our audience members are either in thesis right now or will be going into thesis. Just like myself, I'll be going into thesis next year. So, is there any advice that you'd like to give those students, like anything that they should be looking out for, or being extra vigilant in planning for their productions?
I mean, I'm not. You know, they know as much as I did when I was doing it. I guess my advice would just be make sure you're spending enough time on the right things. You know.
Right. Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us. And before you hop off, we will be showing some preview pictures of your film to the audience. So let's get those in. And that is the main title of the film. The Confrontation. And the offer of the film. So thank you so much, John, for joining us. I will see you next time, and I hope we can work together. And I wish you a lot of luck with this project and any future submissions that you have in film festivals. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us in the Student Film Talk Show. I am your host, Natmar, and it was a great pleasure having a talk with John Butz-Solomon in this with this show, with his segment, and talking about his film production. So thank you so much.